Hello everyone, this is going to be our first lesson in using Maya for production basics, and I wanted to go over this lesson, kind of the interface and how to navigate a little bit. So you got your kind of typical things up here like file, edit, create. Something that you'll notice is that past, I believe it is window, everything will change because we have different menu sets here. So if we look at modeling, everything past window is now part of the modeling window. Rigging, animation, effects, rendering, and customize, so we can customize our windows or our menu sets. The other two that stay the same are the RenderMan and Help menu, although you guys most likely do not have the RenderMan menu right here unless you have installed the RenderMan plugin. I have that installed on my computer. But other than that, these metal menus will change each time you go through and select a different menu set depending on what you're working in at that particular moment. Down here we have buttons that we can access common task quickly. Then over here, this is what is called our shelves. So we have shelves for different types of tasks that we're going to do. And then again, these are quick access type tools that we can go with a single click rather than going into the menu. But all of these options have access to, you have access to these as well inside of the different menus depending on what you are doing. On the left-hand side here, we have access to our different tools. This is our tool shelf right here, and our tool panel. And depending on the tool that you are selecting, you will be doing something different. If you hover over it, you'll see that a tooltip comes up, and it will give you a description of the tool, and also on the right-hand side right here, it has the shortcut key that you use it to access that. I highly recommend using the shortcut keys for as many things as possible. It will actually speed up your workflow. So here you can see that the lasso doesn't have anything selected. The paint selection doesn't, but the move tool does. The rotate tool does, and the scale tool does. So you'll notice that if you were to put your left hand starting off with the Q and each finger going over one button from that, so you start off with your pinky on the Q, your ring finger on the W, and so forth, you will be switching through those tools from Q, W, E, and R. So Q is select, W is move, E is rotate, and R is scale. So that's done so that you can work faster without needing to move your hand as much. Most of the commands, if you keep your hand in this position, you can access all or most of the shortcuts that are going to be used in Maya, and then you keep your right hand on the mouse. Just below that, we have our layouts. So right now we are in a this layout here, which is one big window. We also have 4-panel layout. We have the layout with, I believe it's the outliner, and then the graph editor, and then so forth. The main thing that you're going to do is push spacebar, and it'll switch from the 4 to the 1. And if you hover over a different viewport, you'll see that it will show that. And each one of these viewports represent a camera that's in the scene. So we have a perspective camera, and then we have 3 orthographic cameras, top, front, side. And we can do that going back here, but this will always come up to the perspective. We can create our own custom layout here as well, or access them directly through this menu here. On top of each viewport, so they're going to be, whether it is here or here, you'll see that you have this menu set right here. So you have another set of quick access buttons on the bottom, which will give you common tools that are being used when you're on the viewport and for viewing items in the viewport. You also have a little set of menus down here that are, for the most part, directly related to what you're seeing here and how it is being viewed and what you are viewing. Okay, so along the bottom here, we have the timeline. And that will show us what frame we are on the project. Right now, we're not seeing anything change because there's no animation. The only thing that you will see change is what frame we're actually on. So we can actually type in a number here. So if we wanted to go to frame 10, we'll go there. If we go to something outside of the range, so let's say we went to frame 2000, the cursor will actually be there, but we don't see it on the timeline. Even if we do something that is actually within our project scope, which is 200, we don't see that here on the timeline, and that's because of this right underneath here. So we have the beginning of our project scope and the end of our project scope here, and then the beginning and the end of our visible project scope at the timeline here. So if we were to change this number here to 200, so that way we can see the whole project scope as it stands right now, we can actually see that we're on frame 200, and we can scrub anywhere between here. You can also grab these little squares and adjust the visible scope within the range there. There we go, the little scope. And if you click on the center, you can actually shift this line, the timeline visibility there. If we wanted to increase the scope to, let's say, have 1000 frames, we can do that and then increase it so we can see it, or we can type in, oops, not 100, 1000. And we have the whole timeline visible. We have on the right-hand side here our playback menu, so we can play back different options. We can go all the way to the beginning, all the way to the end. We can play forward, we can play backwards. Let me stop this. This will jump to the next keyframe, although there are no keyframes right now selected, so we're not going to be able to do that. And then this will let you go 1 frame forward and 1 frame back. And then this is the previous keyframe, but we don't have any keyframes right now. Right here we have character sets and animation layers. We don't have any right now, so we don't have, but if you did, you would select them here. We have a couple options here. If we hover over it, this is our auto keyframe toggle, and you'll see that when we hover almost anything, we'll get a tooltip down here. So if whatever we're hovering over, if it's something we can use to do something with, then you'll typically see a tool here, some sort of tooltip. So that's the auto keyframe toggle. So if we want to automatically set keyframes rather than telling it specifically what keyframes we want to set, we can do that. And then we have our animation preference, which brings our settings up. We can click on that and we'll see that we have our settings or preferences for our project, and right now it brings us automatically into the time slider, which looks at a lot of the animation settings, but we can actually jump from category to category once we have that window open. This is an output window that shows us if we've done anything and a command comes out or a warning or error or something like that. Usually you'll see one line, what is the most recent thing that happened. Here we have our script single line editor. So right now it's set to mel. If we needed to type a command, we can do that there. If we wanted to switch to Python, we can click on where it said mel and it switches it to Python. Switching it back to mel now. And then we talked about this already, which is our tooltips. And then if we go all the way to the right-hand side right here, we have our script editor. If we open that, we can see an area where we can edit scripts. And up here, it shows us our history of everything we've done since we've opened it. We can look at more of that in the future, but this is basically if you want to do any scripting where you would look, or if you wanted to look at the history of what's happened recently, you can look at that there as well. By default, you have the channel box visible here, and here you'll see the properties of whatever is selected. A more detailed view of your properties would be in your attribute editor. You can get access to that by clicking here. You also have the tools accessible up here. So right now we have them both selected, so they'll be visible there, but you'll see that when they are actually highlighted here, we have two of them accessed there. We can actually add more. So when we put this one, this is our tool settings. And then this last one here is our modeling toolkit that we can access quickly. A lot of tools that you're going to need for modeling. And you'll see that we have separate tabs for each one of these. The tool settings here is all the way on the opposite side. If we click and drag, we can actually make this floating. And if we wanted to, we can dock it on this side, so we have everything on a single side if you wanted to. But typically, it'll be on the opposite side. You'll see now that I docked it on this side, it actually is now, when I turn it on and off, there. It's going to come up on this side. We can make it floating again, and we can dock it on that side if we wanted to, or really we can dock it anywhere we needed to, either side that we wanted to. So that's the basic look at the interface. I'm going to close this to give us a little bit more space. Let's look at navigation really quick. So this is going to be our perspective viewport where we can navigate. The way to navigate would be to hold down the Alt button, and if you left mouse button click and drag, you'll see that it lets you rotate your viewport camera so that you can see around what you are looking at that particular moment. If you Alt middle mouse button click and drag, you'll pan. And if you hold down the Alt and right mouse button, click and drag, you'll zoom in and out. Another way to zoom in and out is if you have a scroll wheel on your middle mouse button, you can scroll that in and out, and that will zoom you in and out as well. So those are the different ways to navigate within your scene. Something to note, if we push spacebar and go back to an orthographic view, if we pan, it still works. It's by middle mouse button dragging. We can scroll that middle mouse button wheel. We can right click and drag, but we can't orient or rotate the camera. And that's because these are orthographic view cameras. And you can see that a tooltip comes up here. which is basically telling us that they can't be tumbled or rotated at all. So, because we're locking in down to a single plane. So that's basic navigation and interface. So we'll look at the next level or next lesson, and we'll look at creating basic objects and how to manipulate them in the scene.